Good morning, everyone. Welcome. We're going to begin with Ambassador's welcoming remarks, followed by the keynote speech from Minister Stuart. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good morning to all. My friend, the Minister of State for Energy Security and Net Zero, Mr. Stuart, who honors us with his participation today. Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues from the Embassy, a very good morning and warm welcome to the Embassy of Brazil on this 6th edition of the annual seminar on green finance. The theme this year is financing the energy transition in Brazil, which will be discussed in 3 different panels with high-level representatives of the Brazilian government, energy companies from Brazil, the UK, and other countries, as well as representatives from the financial market. And furthermore, it is a great privilege to have our friend, Stuart, the UK's Minister of State for Energy and Net Zero, as a keynote speaker in a few moments. Brazil started its energy transition before it was fashionable, when debates on climate change were exclusively being held in academic and scientific circles. In the 1970s, in response to the oil crisis and the instability they caused for the global energy market, Brazil made large strategic investments in hydroelectricity, the development and production of sugarcane ethanol for transport, and its nuclear program. 50 years later, Brazil's energy mix is the cleanest among the biggest economies. Around 45% of all national energy supplies comes from renewable sources, and for electrical energy production, more than 90% does. Given this, we believe Brazil should and does play a key role in current global energy transition efforts, as well as in tackling the risks posed by climate change. Brazil's experience and the set of technologies that have been effectively tested and approved over the last 5 decades represent solutions that are available immediately and can be implemented in other countries within a relatively short period of time, having significant effects on cutting emissions. This is particularly relevant for developing countries, which have a difficult balancing act to perform that includes a significant increase in energy supply in the coming decades, the guarantee of job and income creation, and the control of greenhouse gas emissions, all while seeking to maintain realistic and sustainable financial prospects. But it is not just the past that Brazil pays attention to, but to the future, of course, which looks promising, I have to say. Building on the increased sustainability of our energy mix, we are committed to further increasing the production of clean energy. In addition to ethanol, hydroelectricity, and nuclear energy, other areas of interest such as solar and wind energy, the biofuels of the future, and low carbon hydrogen have been gaining more and more space on the Brazilian energy stage. The Brazilian government's commitment to sustainability gained additional momentum with the recent announcement of the Ecological Transition Plan, which seeks to turn environmental challenges into an opportunity for the inclusive and sustainable development of Brazil. The energy transition constitutes one of the axes of this development program. The importance of the renewable segments, our historical experience with these technologies, and Brazil's abundant energy resources allow us to be optimistic about the future. The various presentations that we will watch today will show that the energy transition is already a concrete reality in Brazil and that it will only gain traction over the coming years and decades. According to the Ministry of Mines and Energy's National Energy Plan for 2050, the country has energy assets, both conventional and renewable, that are much higher than the national energy needs. The conditions for the development of the renewable energy sector in Brazil are exceptionally favorable, which places Brazil as one of the great energy powers of the future, and indeed of the present. It is common knowledge that the energy transition will require a set of solutions that go beyond the mere electrification of final energy consumption, a fact widely recognized and supported by the International Energy Agency. To this end, Brazil offers the broadest set of decarbonization solutions, which involves employing not only the vast natural resources of the wind and sun, but also modern biofuels and low carbon hydrogen for sectors that are difficult to electrify, such as aviation, maritime transport, and industry. Brazil also has a dynamic oil and gas sector this plays a central role in transition efforts, whether through the provision of conventional energy security or through investment in alternative solutions, such as low carbon hydrogen and the possibilities of using extensive infrastructure for the exploration of traditional fuels for activities that will play an increasingly preponderant role in the future, such as carbon capture, use, and storage. We also understand that energy transition doesn't exist in just one country or a handful of them. It is necessary that a transformation of this magnitude does not leave behind the least favored segments of humanity or the least developed countries. At the last G20 meeting in New Delhi, Brazil, alongside with the United States and India, launched the Global Biofuels Alliance. This is a unique opportunity for developing countries, especially given the International Energy Agency's forecast that the sustainable production of biofuels must triple by 2030 in order to achieve net zero by 2050. As President Lula mentioned during his speech at the 78th United Nations General Assembly, Brazil is committed to promote a development program that reduces inequality, promotes peace, and incentivizes sustainable economic growth. We look forward to presiding the G20 next year, as the responsibilities taken over also offer a valuable opportunity to advocate for a multidimensional approach with our partner countries that recognizes the importance of the green and social aspects of the economic efforts required. Our bid to host COP30 also represents a decisive step to foster the energy transition debate. It's not a coincidence that the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change is called one of the 3 Rio Conventions, as Brazil is part of the International Climate Framework's DNA. You will remember that at the Rio Conference, 3 important conventions were open to signature: UNFCCC, biodiversity, and desertification. The energy topic is both complex and fascinating, and international par excellence. Brazil is becoming one of the main hubs providing low carbon energy solutions, both for export and domestic supply, creating conditions for the development of low carbon, low cost industrial activities. The government has sought to quickly advance the regulatory framework for the different segments of renewable energy, which will soon become important markets for the global reach. Brazil's legal and geopolitical stability qualifies it as a reliable and stable supplier of sustainable energy solutions. On the question of energy, the United Kingdom has always been an important partner for Brazil. The UK's offshore oil and gas exploration in the North Sea contributed to Brazil developing its own offshore exploration. New times call for new solutions. I'm sure that within the sphere of renewable energy, we will be able to further strengthen our partnership on all fronts: regulation, industry, technology, finance. The presence of British energy companies in Brazil is a clear indication that our relationship can only improve with age. Minister Stuart's being here, which is both an honor and a cause for indebtedness for me, bears witness to our intention to work together to achieve an energy transition that is efficient, just, and environmentally conscientious. The joint declaration launching the Brazil-UK Partnership on Green and Inclusive Growth, signed by Brazil's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mauro Vieira, and Brazil's Minister for the Environment, Marina Silva, along with the UK's Foreign Secretary, James Cleverly, in Brasilia last May, reaffirms both countries' commitment and willingness to face global climate crisis, promote sustainable development, and a fair and inclusive ecological transition. Cooperation on energy by promoting a fair and equitable energy transition and the decarbonization of industry is one of the partnership's 5 pillars. This partnership not only reaffirms the deep historical ties between our 2 countries, but testifies to Brazil's determined return to the debates and the efforts in favor of sustainable development. Brazil is back is the shorthand for this message. The time to invest is now. I invite all of you to look carefully at opportunities in Brazil. Those who arrive early will reap the greatest rewards and benefits. But finally, just as important, I thank you all for being here and hope you enjoy the seminar. May it be an opportunity to exchange ideas, make contacts, open business opportunities, and look for information and good practices. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Minister Graham Stuart, the floor is yours. We'll be lovely to hear your keynote remarks.
Well, good morning, everybody, and Your Excellency, it's a delight that you're hosting us here this morning and focusing on this issue of the energy transition in Brazil, the opportunity to invest in Brazil, and just how great an opportunity there is for Brazil to contribute not only to the global energy transition, but to do so in a way which strengthens prosperity and jobs and Brazil's place in the world. You will, in 2025, 10 years on from Paris, be hosting the Belém COP, which will be the first COP in forest COP. I said that, I was telling His Excellency earlier, I said that when I was in Brazil a few months ago, and I was told, no, it's not a forest COP, it's just a COP. Said, well, it's also going to be in the middle of the Amazon and people are going to notice. So the truth is it's going to be a significant event. It's when the next round of NDCs, nationally determined contributions, will be announced, and Brazil will very much be in the lead, be pushing people to raise their aspirations on that. When we took on the COPs, just 30% of the global GDP was covered by net zero pledges. When we handed it on to Egypt 2 years later, it was over 90%. So the world has, but there's obviously skepticism about the cost, the price, being pragmatic, but the world has recognized the ever greater certainty and starkness of the science. So the world is moving in this direction. And as the hydrocarbon age slowly comes to an end, we need to navigate our way through the green transition. And as the Prime Minister set out here last week, the UK, we're proud to say, not only chaired that COP and helped transform the world's commitment to this issue, but we've halved our emissions since 1990, more than any other major economy on Earth. We've cut our emissions more and grown our economy by 2/3 at the same time. So breaking that linkage between carbon consumption and economic growth. And the opportunities, as we know very much in Brazil, are enormous. And we have an administration now committed to it, as the ambassador was sharing with me when he spent 3 days with President Lula at last year's COP. Over the last 18 months, Putin's invasion of Ukraine has caused chaos, of course, in global fuel markets. And amid widespread instability, the price of natural gas quintupled for a period last year, reminding us all of the importance of energy security, of not allowing our citizens to be held to ransom over energy costs. That is why we're pursuing a domestic, diverse and decarbonized energy supply here. And that's why the Prime Minister set up a dedicated department for energy security and net zero at the start of this year. And we're already making significant progress. Our Powering Up Britain plan sets out the extraordinary opportunities opening up in technologies like carbon capture, usage and storage that the ambassador mentioned, floating offshore wind manufacturing, and hydrogen, which will not only help us reach net zero, but generate new jobs and business opportunities. And of course, remembering that 90% of the world has now signed up to go there. If we develop these technologies, if indeed, Your Excellency, we develop these technologies in partnership, we will not only serve our own needs and our own targets, but can provide technologies and solutions which we can export for decades to come. We've demonstrated how to make an accelerated transition from fossil fuels. On coal power, for instance, I'm not sure we've done a good enough job of telling people about it, because just 11 years ago, this country, one of our inheritances when we came into government, was that nearly 40% of our electricity 11 years ago came from coal, the dirtiest of fossil fuels. Next year, it will be 0. And we have, delivering that has happened and been able to be managed without huge ructions, and at the same time, of course, and what's facilitated it, we've taken our share of renewables generating electricity, which was a risible sub 7% in 2010, to over around 48% in the first quarter of this year of our electricity came from renewables. So we're making the transition while also ensuring that we have the secure supply of energy our country needs to thrive. And every wind turbine we erect, every solar plant erected increases UK's energy security and makes us less dependent on global fossil fuel supplies. But as Brazil's Finance Minister, Fernando Haddad, pointed out in his excellent column in the Financial Times last week, this investment in clean energy shouldn't be seen as a cost. It is, in fact, an opportunity. It's lowering, it is now obvious that renewables offer a lower cost solution in most parts of the world compared to fossil fuels. And it's been estimated that overall the green markets could be worth £1 trillion to British businesses by 2030. And Minister Haddad rightly argued that green growth could create jobs, raise income, and improve the lives of millions of Brazilians too. And that is, we need to make sure that is both true, delivered, and understood in order to make people, to keep the consensus we have in this country and that we need in every country in order to make the transition. And Brazil is already in a fantastic position to make the most of the global energy transition for the reasons which the ambassador set out. More than 80% of Brazil's power already comes from renewable sources, 80%. It has the potential to supply 20 times the current global demand for hydrogen. And it has enormous potential for exporting renewable energy from other sources to surrounding countries too. When I was in the country 3 months ago, I met so many people, businesses and organizations committed to net zero and the green transition, and most importantly, doing so because they saw huge economic and investment opportunities springing from it. And I saw firsthand some of the groundbreaking renewables projects. So clearly Brazil will be a major player in the green transition in the short, medium and long term, with the potential to export clean energy to the world. And here in the UK, we're determined to work with you to make the most of this unprecedented opportunity. Our partnership is already going from strength to strength across a wide range of sectors, with trade between us up 25% in the first quarter of this year. So we are perfectly placed to work together on clean energy development. It's why we launched the UK-Brazil Green and Inclusive Growth Partnership during the British Foreign Secretary's recent visit. That partnership will grow cooperation in 5 key areas: climate, forests, sustainable agriculture, energy transition, and importantly, green finance, which means where we have expertise, such as in offshore wind or the digitalization of the electric system or hydrogen, we'll share that so that both of our countries can benefit. And at the same time, we will lend our full backing to Brazil during its upcoming presidency of the G20. It's going to be a busy period diplomatically for Brazil. They've got their president of the G20, and then following on from that, they will become the president of the COP. So there's a lot of responsibilities on Brazilian shoulders. But working together with Brazil through the G20 and the COP, we can help accelerate the global pace of the transition. To stay on track with our climate ambition, we need to see the major economies of the G20 commit to a phase down of unabated fossil fuels and end the construction of new coal-fired power plant. It is the most polluting of fossil fuels, and building new coal-powered electricity generating stations today is something we really just need to see stop. We need to accelerate, then having stopped any new coal, accelerate the phase out of coal-fired power generation alongside scaling up plans for the expansion of renewables. More than anything, we believe we can take our partnership to the next level by working together to leverage major investment in clean energy projects. After all, if we're to persuade populations, we need to show that we can grow the number of jobs, that we can strengthen regional economies, that we can take areas of our countries that have fallen behind and show that this transition, rather than a threat, is a mammoth opportunity. The UK is already Brazil's 3rd largest financial partner when it comes to climate, with more than £350 million committed in international climate finance programs since 2016. Multilaterally, the UK contributed £150 million to the Climate Investment Fund's Renewable Energy Integration Programme, a key programme to ensure the uptake of renewable energy within power systems. And Brazil submitted its investment plan of $70 million for approval at the June CIF board meetings and had it approved with the full support of the British delegation, due to its high ambition, specifically with a plan expecting to mobilize $9 billion from private and public sources by 2030, leveraging almost 130 times the initial investment. So the UK is committed to mobilizing public funds, but we need to enable, which is why it's so great that you're here today, much more important than public funds, we need to enable many more billions of private sector investment to unleash the full potential of the green transition. Our new green finance strategy, launched in March this year, sets out how we're going to harness London's world-leading financial services to support our climate and environmental objectives. That includes making the City of London a global hub for mobilizing green investments for countries around the world. We will drive innovative approaches to unlocking private investment, including our flagship bilateral technical assistance program, UK PACT. In fact, we've just closed a call for projects that will support green finance in Brazil. We also support the Global Lab for Climate Finance, where we fund innovative, scalable, low-carbon, climate-resilient projects. And this year's project is the Low Carbon Agriculture Transition Mechanism. I don't know who makes these names up, they truly are unmemorable, but I hope important in the work they do, because the Low Carbon Agriculture Transition Mechanism offers small and medium-sized Brazilian farmers long-term loans to accelerate greener agriculture in Brazil. So we both agree that cooperation, as well as an element of competition, cooperation is the key to achieving net zero. In his article in the Financial Times, Minister Haddad ended by saying that Brazil is ready to look to the future again and reclaim, he said, our natural and historical position as a leader in the sustainable and inclusive development agenda. So I was delighted when I was in Brazil to go to the Amazon, see projects there we're supporting through the Amazon Fund protecting the forest, but also over the last months, as well as visiting Brazil, I've met the governors of Pará, where Belém and the COP will take place, of Rio, of Sao Paulo. And what did they all have in common? They were all so focused on the opportunities and their preparedness to work with national government to ensure that Brazil can be the host of an enormous number of investments and development of opportunities to help Brazil and its people, first and foremost, but also do fulfill the energy transition and make sure that the whole world is a better place as a result of Brazilian policy. So thank you all very much indeed for listening to me this morning.
Thank you very much, Your Excellencies, for the very insightful and relevant messages.